intend to do this as a vertical live stream. And I feel so bad. We actually really did not mean to do this as a vertical live stream, and we can't change it now.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, we're going to bring this down a little bit. And now you can see my fat belly. That's exactly what I was trying to avoid. I guess we got to squeeze in. Okay. Well, when life serves you lemons, make lemonade. Okay, seriously though, I'm trying not to be really annoyed, but I'm really annoyed because we had already planned out how this whole thing was going to go and how it was supposed to look, and it was not like this, guys. So apologies. All right, well, let's just get. I feel like I'm squeezing you out of the screen.
No, I'm fine.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm totally
fine. But look,
fine.
my head's like halfway.
No, it's fine.
I feel like it's like a magnet. I'm like pushing your head away.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, we're gonna do a one question, one answer, but I figured it would be fun to answer this question because we're gonna have different perspectives on this one, and that makes these question answer videos a little more fun, is to get more than one person's take on it at a time. Okay, so this question, well, here's how it's written. Given that Scientology is so much smaller than they claim, what actual work did they keep staff members busy with? Because we always hear about the long, grueling hours of work, but what was the work that they had you doing? Was it just busy work? And so, I mean, I spent most of my time, or all of my time in Scientology, working at service orgs. You spent a good portion of your time in Scientology working at some management orgs, right? And also the landlord office, which is a whole different beast than service orgs. Service orgs, in my opinion, are a little more closely related to like an actual business in the real world that people might be able to relate to more easily.
Right.
Where, you know, all the staff members in those orgs have jobs that are pretty much exactly like what you would find in any normal business.
Right. And it would be an issue if they didn't do it. Where in management, it's like if they didn't send 100 more telexes, then
That's right.
would it really matter? Yeah.
That's right. There's whole echelons of Scientology management that if they totally disappeared, absolutely nothing would change.
Yeah. In fact, it would probably just be easier.
Life would be easier as a staff member. Now, so if we look at this question here, what did they actually keep staff members busy with? And it says, given that Scientology is so much smaller than they claim. Well, the fact that it is so much smaller than they claim is one of the reasons why staff members tend to be really, really busy.
Right. That would be more work.
Yeah. It might seem the opposite. Like if there's so few Scientologists to deliver to, Scientology staff members must be sitting around with nothing to do. But the fact that there are so few Scientologists in the world, it is also why there's so few staff members in each one of these Scientology orgs to accomplish what are supposed to be the functions of that organization.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But it would also be considered like an emergency to all staff members and Scientologists if there aren't a lot of Scientology public.
Right.
And so it would just mean that each individual person has more work rather than less.
Right. So like let's start with the service org example or an answer to this question that would be most applicable to service orgs. And then I think it would be really fun to hear how this looks in management orgs and the landlord office. So like, you know, in a Scientology org, you have a 7-division organizing board, the org board, and it roughly breaks down into normal person language of, you know, HR, human resources, hiring personnel in Division 1, sales in Division 2, that's book sales, course sales, auditing sales. You have accounting in Division 3. You have operations in Division 4, delivering the auditing, delivering the courses. You have quality control in Division 5, just responsible for correcting things that are going wrong in the other divisions of the org board. And then Division 6 is basically business development, bringing in new business, so brand new public. And Division 7 is redundant. Division 7 is the executive division, but that's also represented vertically at the top of the org board. It's always been a little weird to me that that's its own division. On the bottom of the org board, it never made a ton of sense to me.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I know there's some reason. I know there's a
divisions?
principle L. Ron Hubbard gave for why it's that way, but it's stupid.
Right.
And so, you know, when you walk into an organization, the person at reception is in Division One. That post is located in Division One. And then if they send you to the person who's going to sell you your courses, that's Division Two. Now, technically, it's Division Six because the registrar that sells you your brand new courses is different than the registrar that sells you your major courses. But we don't have to
Right.
get too deep into it. And then once they sell you that course, they send you over to get invoiced, and that's done in accounting in Division Three. And then they send you to take the course, and then that's done in Division Four.
Right.
And then they send you to test on the course, and that's done in Division Five.
Right. And so what the Sea Org members do in these different divisions, like in
Yeah.
Division 4, which would be the division that is supposed to produce the main product of the organization, which would be public being given auditing and doing courses. So there would be course supervisors, people who make sure the students are getting through their courses, making sure they're not messing around. So they're literally standing there watching over them all day. And then there's like a course admin where he like gives people supplies that they need, gives them dictionaries to look up words. He gives them their checklist of things that they're supposed to be doing. He maybe they calculate the student points. And then like in the auditing department, there would be auditors who are literally with the e-meter and have the public on the cans all day. But then there's people who carry around the auditing folders from place to place. There's people who give instructions to the auditors what to do by doing summaries of the auditing folders. I'm just giving some examples of the things that people actually do all day.
Yeah. Here, lean over. I'm stealing all the space.
Okay.
Scoochie,
Is that
scoochie.
fine? I feel like I'm the only.
Okay, there you go. Now it's a little even. Except as long as I'm not blocking you with my shoulder. Yeah. And I guess, I mean, and then you even have in Department 10 of Division 4, the people who are responsible for calling everyone who's on the list of people who've already paid for courses in auditing but have never come in to take it. They're responsible for scheduling people. By the way, do you remember where the Advanced Scheduling Registrar or the ASR is located on the org board? It is Division 2, right? Do you remember?
I'm assuming, yeah. I'm trying to remember what else.
It's a letter. Is the ASR and a letter reg the same thing?
I don't know.
Any former Scientologist in the live chat, I'm going to keep my eye on it. Is the Advanced Scheduling Registrar and the Letter Registrar the same thing? There's a reason why I'm asking. I just found out a very well-known Scientology executive is now the Advanced Scheduling Registrar at Flag.
Oh.
Did I tell you about this already?
No.
John Lundeen.
Oh, wow.
Someone sent me a
You
letter.
talk about him a lot.
I know. John Lundeen is a famous Sea Org member in Scientology. And he was the captain of ASHO when I was in the Sea Org there. And he was at the time the longest serving commanding officer of a Sea Org service org.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard of him a lot. I
Yeah.
remember his daughters.
Oh, Misha?
Yeah, she was at Flag, and then he had one at Int, Tammy
Oh, I didn't know. Tammy.
Lundeen.
Okay, but not. I'm thinking Tammy Wyckoff.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, John Lundeen is an ASR at Flag. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he got in trouble, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in Division 2, they also, like, it's the dissemination division. So I remember at Flag, they would also do, like, work on the source mag.
For Department 4, promotion and marketing.
Right.
Right. And then Division 5 is the bookstore, so book sales. And then Division 6 is the actual fundraising.
Right. Yeah. So someone
Yeah.
has to sit in the bookstore and actually sell the books, and somebody else there who's making the source magazine is actually typesetting it, taking photos of people, putting it into the magazine, and getting it mailed out and stuff, and coming up for new ideas for the next source magazine, getting that approved.
Oh, is that also where Central Files is located? CF?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
gotta
I
be,
think so.
right?
Yeah, yeah, but I remember it was in the bottom floor at the Coachman.
Oh, and in Nashua, it was in the basement. Like
Oh,
they like hiding those people away. Those are like the bridge trolls of Scientology orgs.
Yeah, and people in Mimeo too. And Mimeo is like a big like library kind where they have every single policy ever written by L. Ron Hubbard, right?
I had never been in Mimeo. That was like because it was HCO. You're not supposed to go in there. So
Okay,
like I've
yeah.
never been in Mimeo.
Yeah, so I guess those people keep a bunch of those files, and then they also like if somebody is getting like a committee of evidence, which is sort of like a court martial or any sort of like even if the schedule if there's like a broad public announcement that needs to be made, they make all of the copies of this and print it all out onto pieces of paper, and then that gets put in everybody's comm basket, which is everybody in the Scientology org has a basket where they receive internal dispatches and issues. It's mostly issues though. It's always like somebody's committee of evidence and saying all the horrible things that they've done, and they're like
That's right.
totally embarrassing.
See, people in the live chat are telling me to move over. Maybe they're just
Like-
teasing me though.
Well, okay.
That works. Yeah, I forgot about Mimeo.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that people do. And then I'm thinking in like Division 5 and Qual, there's like the examiners. So they have to sit there all day. And when anybody completes an auditing session, they have to go and hold the cans. And then the person who's the examiner has to look at their needle and say if it's floating or not. And anytime someone completes a course, they have to attest to it. What do they get asked?
Would you like others to have? Oh wait. Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, would you like others to have?
Similar gains to yours.
Right. Yeah. Would you like others to have similar gains to yours? But there's also, would you like others to have the gains that you now have? No, that's not
right.
how it is.
There is something like that though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they take people like they have people write a success story. So basically every course you complete or every auditing action you have to write a success story, otherwise you cannot complete it. And so there's people whose jobs are to take those in, read them, all that sort of thing. I mean, there's even people whose job it is to bring Scientology public down to the restaurant or the canteen or whatever to make sure they have enough food for auditing sessions, and then bring them back up to their auditor and to make sure they're there on time.
Yeah.
They're called tech pages. Yeah.
I just realized I've insulted anyone who's ever been posted in central files. But it does seem like they take the Sea Org members that like David Miscavige just has decided no one should never be seen again by anyone. Like you only hear of them. Like these mythical creatures that exist down in the basement and magically keep central files updated. And I mean, I have some images of some people in my mind, but it's not like I've met the CF personnel of every Sea Org base. But am I lying?
They have a similar look.
Am I
is that what
lying?
you're
I think
saying?
they're all kind of yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's like someone in the dungeon.
David Miscavige has decided you don't deserve to ever have anyone lay eyes on you again. You're in CF.
Yeah.
It's even worse than being assigned to be a dishwasher. Remember, like Charlie Rush was
Right, a dishwasher.
dishwasher forever.
Yeah.
It's even worse than being in the PC folder, not the PC folder warehouse. Like remember the PC folders at the bottom of AOLA. God, what were they called? Oh, because it's not the warehouse. It's not the warehouse.
Okay. At Flag there was a warehouse.
But the reason it being posted in CF is even lower than the PC files, the PC folder file area. I can't remember the name of it because the PC folder area is actually important.
Yeah, right.
And central files is like
Yeah. I mean, what is
no
even
one
in
gives
there?
it. No,
Yeah.
it's just first of all, it's impossible to keep central files up to date. So posting someone down there is basically just like a big FU
Well, they
because
have
you
to
could
do a
never
lot of
do
filing.
you could never do the job. It's not possible.
Yeah.
I didn't think this would turn into a rant against CF personnel. Apologies to all CF personnel out there.
Oh, but you said something that made me think of something else. Well, anyways, there's also whole jobs that are feeding other Sea Org members or Scientologists that are bringing the food out, cooking the food. There are people who are in charge of making sure that people have a place to live and that there's a mattress in there, even if it's always a really shitty, disgusting mattress. Those still have to come from somewhere. Or there's even people whose jobs it is to do the laundry for the executives and iron their shirts and clean their rooms.
Maybe for you fancy CMO folks.
Well, for one, I never got my laundry done ever by anybody.
Oh, okay.
And two, CMO, like when you were in CMO, you wound up doing a lot of the laundry of the RTC reps and
Right.
other senior executives. Yeah. So in fact, part of your program to get into CMO was you had to basically be really good at ironing and cleaning, and you would have to pass an inspection
In
on it.
retrospect, isn't that really weird? Like the boot camp to join the Sea Org is about like learning some fundamental basics that L. Ron Hubbard said all Sea Org members should know. Being able to handle the physical universe, the proper attitude of a Sea Org member,
Right,
and
competence.
then, all sorts of stuff, right? And then, in order to join the elite Sea Org unit of the CMO, they're like, now you got to get good at ironing. How does that make any sense?
The reason why it makes sense is because you're basically like L. Ron Hubbard's personal household, do anything that he wants or needs, and that's how it started out. So in some ways, those executives are supposed to be representing things that L. Ron Hubbard did, and so CMO is sort of like his private assistants.
Right. Yeah.
Slightly creepy, but
There's even Sea Org posts specifically for maintaining all of the vehicles that get used by the different orgs.
right.
That's especially true for Flag, where they've probably got like 20 full-size city buses,
Right.
plus probably 20 Sprinter vans, and
Yep. And there's bus drivers.
yeah, there's bus drivers. Imagine you just signed up to dedicate your next billion years to putting in ethics on the planet and clearing this sector of the galaxy, and you're the bus driver.
Yeah. Or even there's like the canteen I see. They basically run the canteen during break times and they count the money. So when I was in Clearwater, I ran my job was to run programs into the hotel organization. So it was like making sure the hotel rooms get cleaned, making sure that Scientology public stayed in the Scientology hotels so that Scientology could get as much money as possible. It was cooks for the restaurants and cooks for the staff, and it was like waiters who served food. It was even like people who took care of the grounds, and even like in like where the events were held, it was people who took care of the audio visual. So
Yeah.
yeah, all sorts of stuff like that. Oh, and there's like even security who like sort of stand outside every Scientology building, making sure the right people are coming and going. And
Yeah. And I think you just mentioned this, but like all of the hotel behind the scenes hotel workers, just full-time laundry, full-time housekeeping.
that's right.
And of course, when you have something like a giant hotel, like the amount of maintenance, I mean, plumbing and
Right.
the
Multiple.
meals and the room service. And this is particularly applicable to Flag, but I
Right.
mean, I guess the other Sea Org bases, like even like St. Hill, they must have some accommodations for out-of-town public to rent, I guess, right?
Right. Yeah. Or a celebrity center too, the Manor.
Oh,
That's their hotel
yes.
organization.
Oh, the Celebrity Center particularly.
Yeah. The restaurants.
Yeah. Oh my God, the ship.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So imagine all the Sea Org posts on the ship just designed to keep the damn ship running, like physically running.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People in the engine room.
And now imagine this, a slight pivot, but we'll come back to it. Imagine having the skills necessary to keep a ship running and what you could make in the real world with those skills. And instead, you're working for a cult that's paying you $50 a week for no obvious reason
Right.
other than you're saving the sector of the galaxy by keeping those engines running. Because Lord knows you couldn't do those courses at Flag.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's true. Yeah. I mean, there's even people whose whole jobs are taking care of the kids.
Where?
Well, like at Flag, there was like the cadet org.
Oh,
And at the
yes.
QI, so there's like the cadet coordinator.
Yes.
And there's like a few people there that well, at the ranch where I was at, there was one adult who was responsible for getting the food from the base and getting like plates and forks and knives. There was another one who was responsible for making sure we did all the grounds maintenance. And then there's some that were like course supervisors. So
That's right.
yeah, there's like a medical liaison. So basically, you go there if you're sick and get vitamins, or
That's the person just responsible for telling you there's no money for your medication this week.
exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah,
Oh, you need that eye appointment? You need glasses? Check back next week.
yeah. Or in 5 years.
They cut our medical allocation this week because there wasn't enough money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry.
And then there's a person in Treasury who's responsible for saying that there's not enough money.
That's right.
And in order to get anything, you have to get 3 price quotes, but you can't even call out. So how are you supposed to do that?
And then the payroll officer's job is just to tell you that there's no pay this week.
Right, yeah. Or to make everyone stand in a long line and hand out pay.
And then
Have
be
them
like,
sign for
it's
it.
David Miscavige's birthday this week. Would you like to donate $10? And be like,
How do you
excuse
say
me,
no to
would you like
that?
to donate $10?
No?
Excuse me. Get that person's name. Write that down.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
was rude. Ethics Ched.
Yeah, and then there's somebody else who's responsible for receiving all of the reports that people write on each other and filing them in their ethics folder. They also read all the mail. That's very important part of their job. Make sure nobody.
Nobody gets any letters from their family that wasn't read first.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
We haven't even mentioned like what you think would be the most important post in an org, but isn't, which is an auditor.
Right, right. Yeah.
You would think, since all of Scientology theoretically exists, to get people up the auditing side of Scientology's bridge to total freedom,
Right.
that the post of auditor would be some sort of a highly sought after and prestigious post in Scientology. But ironically, it's not.
Yeah.
It'd be like going to like an auto body shop and wondering why there weren't any mechanics. That's how a Scientology org usually is. Like, if a Scientology even has one like permanently posted auditor, if a Scientology org has one auditor, you're like, oh, you guys are doing pretty good. You're a real org.
Right, yeah. And of course, that Flag, they have many
Yeah.
permanently posted auditors, but the rest of the entire org board is essentially intended to facilitate whatever's in Division 4 of that org board in Scientology that's auditing. Even the training side of the bridge is for auditing. It's so you can learn how to audit. And so that really is the end product.
Yeah.
But all of the rest of those parts of the organization exist to get that done. But yeah, the post of an auditor would be like sort of parallel to somebody whose post was janitor. They're not a head of a division.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a head of a department. They're not a head of a unit, and that's like the sort of hierarchy. So they're not an executive in any way.
It's true. You know, I think the analogy of like an auto body shop
Yeah.
is actually a really good analogy.
Yeah, totally. It is.
Because you could have a giant auto body company, and without those mechanics, technically that company has nothing to offer. I mean, I guess you can sell the tires, you can sell windshield wipers, you can sell all sorts of stuff, right? But the machine runs on the auto mechanic, and yet the auto mechanic is still just an auto mechanic.
Right. Yeah.
They're still in that organization. They're a rank and file worker bee,
Right. Yeah. That's very
and are
true.
considered highly replaceable.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, even though it takes a hell of a long time in Scientology to become a trained professional auditor, Scientology still does treat them like they're highly replaceable. I mean, has that been your experience? That's been my experience. Like, in a weird way, like auditors get busted for the dumbest things, and you're like, wait a second, it took years and years and years to get this person trained, and you're going to get rid of them
Right.
for this?
Well, it's like a very high stakes job because
Yeah.
as an auditor, you can get in trouble for miscalling a read, miscalling an FN. You're being recorded all day. And so it's like, it's pretty scary. It's pretty easy to get in trouble. And anytime you get in trouble for one of those things, you have to go to cramming, which is basically where you restudy your materials. Somebody else's job is to cram people, which is basically to retrain them briefly. And so, yeah, it's easy to be taken out of the chair as an auditor.
That's what they call it.
Yeah, it
Out of-
happens all the
He's
time.
out of the chair. Get him out of the chair. You're like, you mean like he fell out of the chair? No, he's out.
Yeah,
He doesn't have a okay to audit.
right.
It's almost like, isn't it funny? They treat it like it's a privilege to be given an okay to audit, and you're like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
look around here. How many people have volunteered to go into full-time training to be an auditor? It's amazing how many people in Scientology would, if given the opportunity, not accept the opportunity to go into full-time training to be an auditor.
Right. Yeah. It's a scary job to have.
You said it was a high-risk job, which is a very interesting way of thinking about it. Now, normally in the real world, with high risk comes high reward. And the
Right.
fact is, this is why you don't get a lot of auditors in Scientology. There's no fucking reward.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's just high risk with no reward.
yeah. And it's very hard to become an auditor.
Yeah.
Like to even to even get through auditor training, you have to do 2-hour confront, you have to pass the metering course, you have to be able to read the meter perfectly, you have to have all these checks through the Religious Technology Center, you have to get through a million what do you do drills and have all of the answers right every single time. It's like, it's not easy.
Look, someone in the live chat, Scott says, I thought auditors make big money. Auditors don't make any more money than any other staff member.
No.
Every now and then, certain bonus systems will be put in place. Like if an auditor audits over 40 hours a week, they automatically get a $100 bonus. Guys, I mean, considering, here's what's crazy. I wonder if they got that impression because auditing itself costs so much money.
I see.
Even at a lower org, here, I'm stealing too much of the spotlight here. Even in a lower org, a class 5 org, a 12.5-hour block of auditing costs about $2,800, if I recall correctly. So what? That's like, is it $200 an hour? I mean, what's the math on this? 12, it was 100. Yeah, I mean, roughly $200. Help me out here.
I wasn't even listening to that part. You started saying numbers, and I was like, blah, blah, blah. So
Okay.
you're on your own.
So an auditor, so think of this, auditing costs about $200 an hour. An auditor is expected to audit for 40 hours a week. Like that's supposed to be your normal.
Minimum, yeah.
Auditors don't get paid by the hour. Auditors get paid just like every other staff member. If an auditor makes $100 or $200 a week, they're freaking lucky.
Right, yeah. And that's in a Scientology org where
Yeah.
at Flag, they make the same $50 that every other Sea Org member makes.
That's right, and that's even more remarkable because auditing at Flag costs even so much more money.
Yeah, and many are so much more highly trained.
So you could have a Sea Org auditor at Flag where this auditing, people are paying like $400 an hour.
Yeah.
And you're delivering 40 hours a week. And you're getting $50 at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Maybe if you got in your 40 hours, you're getting a $100 bonus.
In the Sea Org?
It just depends. Sometimes.
Is that a thing?
Sometimes. It just depends. Local executives or will get passed or something or, something.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to be as fair as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
But normally speaking, let's say, you could get $50 a week and you literally delivered like $20,000 of service that week.
Right, yeah, yeah. I mean, in Scientology, an auditor has no authority, really. They just have an important job that's really rigorous, but they're not actually in charge of anything.
They're in charge of literally nothing.
Yeah. They even have a case supervisor who tells them what the next auditing action is to be done in the pre-clear.
Right.
And someone whose whole job is that.
Oh, you know what? Oh, another question might be from the same person. Isn't Isabella Cruz, Tom Cruise's daughter, an auditor? This brings up a great subject.
Yeah.
Just because you do auditor training in Scientology doesn't mean your job is to be an auditor. And in fact, that's true for most people in Scientology who do auditor training.
That's right. Yeah. So you were a trained auditor, but you were not, your post was not auditor.
I was never my job to audit people.
Right. And same, I was a trained auditor and I was never posted as an auditor.
Right.
So it's different. It's like having a degree in something, but it's not what you do.
That's such a
Versus,
good analogy. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like a requirement for some other positions, but
Yeah.
those positions are usually like organizationally facing, meaning like you use your auditor training to do interrogations in order to find out why people aren't doing their jobs and force them to do them. So that's like there's a lot of that, but it's not actually being posted as an auditor
Right.
whose job it is to deliver Scientology services.
Right. And what's amazing is we were talking about this earlier, and well, let's go back to the auto mechanic analogy. I guess in the auto mechanic analogy, it wouldn't be crazy for the CEO of the company to have no idea how to repair a car. That would
Right.
probably not be crazy,
Right. Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Especially at a bigger company.
Right.
But you would expect for the guy that was directly managing the auto mechanics to know what those guys were doing and what it took. Like, otherwise, how would you even know if someone's doing a good job or not?
Right.
And what's amazing is that in Scientology, there are so many executives who oversee the delivery of auditing and courses who themselves have no idea how to do that stuff.
Right.
Like, this is how how rare Scientologists actually doing their auditor training is. I don't know. It's a weird thing to be true.
Yeah. Yeah, it is weird.
I wonder if on some level a lot of Scientologists are afraid of auditor training.
They should be. It's scary. Well, it's like you get in trouble if you call things wrong, like if you, and it's hard.
Yeah.
Like I was a little bit afraid of it.
Yeah.
Were you?
I was afraid of it only because at a very, very young age, I could overhear from the auditing sessions that were occurring in the co-audit course room and from some of the bulletins that were freely available in the tech volumes. There was a lot of sexual content in auditing sessions, and I was like, hell no. I do not want to be asked questions. I do not want to have to ask other people questions. I did not sign up for this shit. I'd rather just be on this prison planet for the next 1,000 lifetimes, plug my ass back into the Matrix, you know? And I was afraid of auditing for that reason. I was like, what? I can imagine if I was someone who actually joined Scientology in my 20s or my 30s, and was willingly paying for auditing, and I could actually imagine being in some sort of a headspace where auditing was possibly enjoyable. If you didn't mind talking about embarrassing stuff, I could imagine auditing being fun.
Right. Or if it was something that would be helpful to you in your
Right.
life or something like that. But as a kid, it's like,
Oh, it's horrifying.
it's just like, yeah, the worst.
Horrifying.
The worst possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like as an auditor, if I was someone who wasn't embarrassed to ask other people really embarrassing questions, I could actually imagine being an auditor might be fun. But that's not the way it was for me. And I honestly, if someone made me be on that post, I would have actually, it would have been the one thing that would have actually made me say, I'm leaving. Or if someone assigned me to the RPF. I always knew I would never do the RPF.
Yeah.
But if, oh, you're falling out of the picture. You're falling. But if someone said, no, look, you have to be a posted auditor, I'd be like, I'm out of here. I'd be like, I couldn't imagine waking up in the morning and being like, yeah, another day of having to sit at a table across from someone in a locked room for 8 hours.
Yeah.
And not being allowed to actually have a conversation with them, just having to stick to the auditing communication cycle and the auditing procedure. It's not like an auditor's just sitting there talking with the person.
Exactly.
They're having to follow the auditing procedure, and it's mind-numbingly boring.
Yeah. It really is. And weird.
So I wonder, but if we were to speculate that many Scientologists are actually afraid of auditor training, what would the reason be?
It would be because it's hard. It would be because nobody wants to listen to another person for that long and have no choice because you have to follow the auditor's code. Like you can't get angry. You just have to be patient and nice. Honestly, I think that's the main reason. Most people are dicks. They don't want to be stuck. It's like being stuck
Yeah.
at a party with the person who you don't want to hear their life story from. all day, every day, for the rest of your life.
Could you imagine if someone that you did not like paid preferential rates to specifically request you as their auditor?
I'm sure that happens all the time.
We forgot to mention that. You can
Yeah.
pay extra if you want to pick your auditor. Otherwise, you get whatever auditor is assigned to you.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind of creepy if you're like a pretty girl.
Yeah, if you're a real
Yeah.
perv public, which there's a lot of them out there,
Yeah,
they'll pay extra for the hot auditors.
yeah,
It's gross that that's even an option.
yeah, right, totally, yeah.
You're not allowed, if you're a professional auditor, you're not allowed to say that you don't want to audit somebody.
That's right, yeah, you're not. In fact, there's even this procedure that's like, if you, for some reason, don't like your PC, I forget what it's called, but it's like, it's a way to make you find something you have in common with them. Like, I remember once going in session and an auditor was like, I realized that I remember you did this and I liked this about you and whatever. And I was like, wait, this is the procedure for what you do if you hate someone. It's like, that backfired.
Like, my auditor doesn't like me?
I did not like them either.
Who was it?
It was Greg Scroy at the time.
Oh, I twinned with his brother Patrick Square on Key to Life.
Yeah, remember? That's how I first met him because
I
we
was
were
this
on
l-
that together.
I was this
remember?
little 13-year-old shit in a shirt and a tie, and I forget what it is that I did that got under his skin, but he wasn't used to having to take shit from a freaking 13-year-old. And he got so pissed at me, he reached across the table and he grabbed my tie and he yanked me across the table. He's like, "You listen to me."
Oh my God. Oh my God, that's scary.
It was right at the end of Key to Life. I forget.
I can't imagine what you would have done that would cause that reaction in somebody.
Oh, I know, right? Of course. You know, you know what? It was on Method 9 word clearing, and I just kept stopping him like every
Yes.
half sentence.
Oh, that's a thing. Totally.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
That would I mean, that's why you would have to take walks, is because it'd be like, or
That's
if you
right.
wanted to get that, at least that's what was good about Key to Life, which is a certain course. It's like you're doing Method 9 word clearing on each other. And if they effed with you, then you F with them.
Two can play that game.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah. That's it. Is there a word or symbol there you didn't fully understand? What did I do? What did I do?
You had a 1 second hesitation.
Your eye twitched as you read that word.
Yeah. Try to prove that it didn't.
Yeah.
How are you going to do that?
You're getting kind of misemotional. It's an indicator of a misunderstood word. Are we going to have to go take a walk? Oh, once you know the system, you can game the system. Key to Life. Key to Life was actually, that was kind of like my real introduction to real Scientology.
Yeah, right.
That was a course that actually doesn't exist anymore. I don't know why it doesn't exist anymore. Oh, probably because there's no trained delivery teams is one reason. But also, it's, you can't buy the Key to Life course anymore.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
No.
it's true.
Maybe because the grammar rules don't apply.
What do you mean?
Like maybe that's not right grammar anymore. You know, the course is all about grammar. So you literally are reading the definitions of small common words and using. But they have like a million definitions, like 30 definitions for like the word it, and then you're having to use them all in sentences and look up the etymology, and then you're learning about all this grammar on this course.
Yeah, we are going to do a real demonstration of Method 9 word clearing here soon.
Yeah,
Maybe in
that'll
the
be
next
fun.
few days if we can figure out exactly how to set it up. It's going to be
It'll
so
be
much
fun,
fun.
yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God, how did we get off onto that tangent? What were we
I don't
talking
know.
about?
We're talking about what do Scientologists or SEERG members actually do.
Right. Oh, that's right. So yeah, auditors. We were talking about auditors. And then, but okay. We haven't started talking about the middle management or the landlord office. So like,
Right.
the last, remind me, the last post that you had, remind me which came first, which came last, working in middle management or working in the landlord office. I know they're kind of the same thing, but you know what I mean? Like landlord office is in middle management, right?
Yes, and I also only worked in middle management when I was working at the landlord office.
Oh.
Well, I was like briefly.
When you were in the CMIXU word clear, that's...
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Okay,
that
okay,
too.
okay.
Yeah. So, but like, do you want to explain?
You're falling off.
So, like, in
Maybe I'm just sinking into the middle of the cushion here and I'm stealing your space. Hold on.
It's fine. I think it's even.
I'm like a walrus trying to get out of the pool. Okay.
So in Scientology, I guess like there's like a hierarchy of different organizations. And so like sort of at the bottom is just a regular Scientology church. And then above that is,
The CLO, the management. Oh, you mean just as far as service orgs?
yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to explain what middle management is.
Oh, I see. So you've got all your service orgs that are responsible for selling,
I wonder if it's better to
auditing
start at the top or the
to
bottom to
on the
explain.
bottom. It's easier.
Okay.
So if you've got the service orgs, they sell Scientology to people that pay for it,
And deliver it.
and then they deliver it. And then you have a continental management org for just a continental management unit composed of Sea Org members for every Scientology continent. So that's East US, West US, Canada, Latin America, UK, Europe, ANZO, and then I think that's it. And those continental management units answer to middle management. And middle manage so in other words, middle management really is an international management unit. But because there's one above them, you have to call them middle management.
Right.
Middle management does manage all orgs internationally
Right. Yeah.
and all Scientology activity internationally, even
Right.
the so-called social betterment activities.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
And so middle management is what's located on Hollywood and Ivar in what they call the HGB, the Hollywood Guarantee Building, or the Life Exhibit Building.
Right,
The Life
exactly.
Exhibition Building.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's middle management. And
Right.
I mean, that's what it is. That's how you define it, right?
Yeah. No, that was good. Yeah.
And so, but then in middle management, you then have a management unit responsible for managing the middle management unit, the CMO, IXU.
Yeah. Well, in every continent,
Yeah.
in every continental management unit,
Yeah.
there's an organization called CMO, which is supposed to be managing management essentially. They're supposed to be executing programs from international management into the management units and into the. It's ridiculous. This is why.
It's as ridiculous as it sounds.
Yeah.
Everyone runs around trying to do the exact same freaking thing, trying to get one person to do 10 different things. And then above middle management, you've got international management, and above international management, you've got CMO International, and then overseeing all of this, you've got RTC. Like, it is bonkers. It is so
really is.
inefficient.
Yeah, and then ironically, the more of this bureaucracy and like people doing the same job, you need more berthings for those people. You need someone to find places for all those people to live. You have more people to feed. So you have someone whose job it is to feed those people, and they need more uniforms. So you need more people in those organizations to uniform those people. More people need to transport them. They have more folders full of, like, you have more folders full of reports. So someone's job has to be to do the filing. So a lot of what people do at middle management is just making it so that people in middle management can just exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
There's been a lot of information shared about David Miscavige completely dismantling international management. And it's funny because, to me, in some way, one of those two things had to go. Either middle management had to go or international management had to go, because they were kind of doing the same thing. I mean, I understand there's ways in which they weren't, but the truth is, who's actually doing the harder work there? Middle management is.
Right, yeah.
And the work that they're doing might be pointless, but if it's pointless, then international management is doubly pointless.
Right, yeah. I mean, in the end, international management was really just like showmen who spoke at the events,
Yeah.
in my opinion, without knowing like a ton of what everyone there did. But they put on events which set the direction for Scientology and was the big new thing that got sold to everyone in order basically to make money.
Yeah. You know, I realize we're speaking so generally that it's almost certainly unintentionally offensive to people who are actually doing important work at some places and sometimes. But I can tell
yeah.
you
They
at that
worked
org,
hard.
I can tell you that at the org level, though, at the bottom level where Scientology is actually getting delivered, these multiple management units and the redundancy, it's so much, it's easier just to ignore it all and just do your job.
Right. Well, because there's so much management, they're cross ordering each other constantly. And if they don't, they're not doing their job. So they get in trouble. So it's like, and then you, of course, have L. Ron Hubbard's policy, which is what you're supposed to be following anyways. So it's like a crazy madhouse
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
And then, but you risk being in trouble or ostracized if you don't like, be like, okay, yes, sir, I'm working on that. So it's like, it is honestly pretty crazy.
So I want to know the landlord office. So we've talked a lot about, you know, jobs that exist in most Scientology orgs, but the landlord office is a unique thing. What happens there doesn't happen anywhere else.
Right, yeah. So so in the landlord office where I worked, we were responsible for fundraising for new Scientology church buildings, and then uh, having the buildings bought, and then designing them, and basically getting them set up and renovated for the ideal org church buildings. Basically making them beautiful, space planned, and operational, and having them have the proper displays where they can that will recruit new public in the best possible way. And so it's kind of like interior design firm and space planning. But yeah, that's what we
I
did
think
there.
people who ended up doing jobs in the Sea Org that they were then able, like when they leave the Sea Org, they were able to translate that work, that on the job training, whatever they got, into real world experience and real world careers are so fortunate. Because
Right.
there are so many people who toil away on some of these relatively meaningless, unskilled Sea Org jobs for decades, and they haven't even. And then when if they finally leave the cult, it's like, what did they even get out of it? Not even real world skills.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like some benefits to working there, not all in my case, but a lot of people were learning to do like 3D rendering and doing CAD space planning and using Photoshop and Illustrator
Yeah.
and things like that.
And like, would they get like the Sea Org paid for them to go get trained on this stuff, or are they just doing like tutorials online or something?
I learned on the job. I learned just from doing it. But like, so for a very brief period, I worked in the dissemination unit, which sort of like it's sort of like another design job where they designed logos, flyers, they did the layout for magazines, and I was working there, and they did send us to a college class on color theory. But honestly, my whole job there was not looking like a weirdo. I don't even know if I took in what they were talking about. I was just afraid to be surrounded by muggles and trying to like be normal.
You're like, don't say yes, sir. Don't say yes,
Exactly.
sir.
Yeah, and then in the regular world, people always like shake each other's hands and introduce themselves, and I wasn't used to doing that, so it was just like terrifying whenever people would come up to me and say stuff. I was like it was just weird.
It's weird that shaking hands isn't a thing in the Sea Org, right? But it
Right.
turns out you're falling off the pick.
Oh, sorry.
That's probably a carryover from the Navy. Apparently, in the military, shaking hands isn't a thing either.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
But even just like being around normal people, like I remember them being like, "Oh yeah, I went to school here and I grew up here and what's your favorite TV show?" And I was like, "What the fuck are you?" Like I was like, they were like an alien person.
You're like,
I'm like
Wogs.
they watch TV
Wogs,
every
am I
day.
right?
Yes, exactly.
Off purpose out ethics, Wogs.
Well, it was
Did
scary.
you go home and take your Prozac?
Exactly. Well, and especially artistic people. I'm an artistic person, so I'm not like. It was just weird, like to be able to have that freedom and not be like embarrassed about it. Like that's not like I was doing a job. I was learning this for a job. I wasn't like free to be some like artsy fartsy person. And so when they would talk about like yeah, I'm just like learning about myself, I'd be like, oh my God, this is terrifying. What does that even mean? And I never knew what I could and couldn't say to them.
I just love that they sent you to a course on color theory. That's right up there with interpretive dance.
No, that's incorrect. Color theory is extremely important if
Tell
you're
me
an artist.
more. Yeah, maybe if I can for like printing layouts and
Or for like flower arranging or interior decorating.
are you saying interpretive dance is not important? That was
I
my whole
guess it
major.
is.
That's my whole major in college.
All right. I guess you.
Oh, it's funny, like the Sea Org world meeting the real world. I remember when I got a jury summons when I was on my internship at AOLA, my cramming officer internship, and I got a jury summons, and I was like, I could not imagine anything more exciting than having to show up for jury duty. And people have all these ways of getting out of jury duty. And I'm like, fuck that. This sounds like I'm gonna rock this. And so I show up. I did everything in my power to get selected for that jury, and I'll be damned if I did not get selected. And it went to the case went to trial. Like we actually we had a
Oh,
case.
so you got selected?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I got to leave the base every morning and go to the courthouse, which I think was down in, well, hell, actually, oh my God,
That's
probably the
where you
same
got
courthouse
married?
that all these things are happening. There's only, it was a criminal case.
Yeah,
This was a
yeah.
criminal case.
Oh,
So it was probably the same courthouse in downtown LA where all of these other trials that we've been paying attention to are happening. And this is when I was like really out at this point. I was ready to leave the Sea Org, but didn't want to say I wanted to leave.
oh yeah.
And I
So
realized
you're listening to Mission Earth.
I was listening to Mission Earth in the Qual Library. I was reading the Gulag Archipelago in my cramming office. I was like hide off camera and just read the Gulag Archipelago.
What is that?
It's a very famous book about Russia and
okay.
stuff.
Wow.
And
That was your idea of having a fun time escaping? Was
Yeah.
reading the Gulag
Archipelago.
Wow.
And then I realized that nobody but me knew how long this trial was going for. And I was like, when this trial ends, nobody will know. And I took an
smart.
extra day off.
What did you do? Where did you go?
Went to Santa Monica, went to the pier.
Dang, you are so out ethic.
So out
Can't
ethics.
even believe it.
Yes. And it was amazing. Yeah, that's what being a total criminal in the Sea Org is.
Only one day though?
I only felt like I could pull it off for one day. You know.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But like everyone else in this courthouse is acting like, they don't really want to be there. I'm like, I am dedicated to the cause.
Oh, that is so funny. I can totally see that being the case. Like
Yeah.
they're like, oh, this is so horrible. And you're like, dude, this is the best day of my life.
I even said in the selection process, I even told them I work for the Church of Scientology because I didn't know to be ashamed of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Really. I was like, I'm a law and order. I'm a law and order candidate running for juror number 13. Even knowing I worked for Scientology, they wanted me on the jury. It was
That's
amazing.
so funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was a blast. Good old days of skipping school.
Yeah.
That's my version of skipping school.
Oh, yeah. Well, how?
I never skipped school in real school because I left school in the 6th grade. But
Right. Yeah. So you just skipped all the rest of school. but
that's
you
right.
Never...
I skipped all of school, but yeah.
Yeah. So, wait. So, what did you do on a daily basis, though?
On what?
Your job.
Which
as
one?
a Sea Org member.
Oh, well, at first when I joined the Sea Org, I was recruited to be the tech stack ASHO. And, that oversees all of the course rooms and all of the professional auditing. And for me, that was a blast because most of my time had been spent running the course rooms in Philadelphia. And that's what I was trained to do at Flag.
So, what does overseeing mean, though? Did you go and inspect, or did people give you reports, or?
Oh, no, I was in the course rooms like most of the day. So technically speaking, my job was just to make sure the supervisors were actually doing their job. But because I was a trained supervisor, I was also allowed to and enjoyed actually going in and helping them. So my that was my whole flow wasn't I'm here to my whole flow is we're here to do this together.
Right. Yeah.
And I can help you, but I'm also going to correct you if you're doing something wrong. But I'm just as happy to work with the students. And honestly, the students are just as happy to be worked with.
Yeah.
know.
Totally. Yeah.
And because there's so many course rooms at ASHO, like outside of Flag, ASHO is the largest training org in the U.S.
Okay.
Or actually in the world. And
Wow.
There's just so many course rooms on the second floor and the third floor that you could just stay busy all day, just going from course room to course room, helping out, making sure. My goal was basically, if I walked into this course room and I was the RTC rep, what would I be furious about?
I see.
And fix that.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
The HGC where the professional auditing occurred, it didn't need it. Pretty much that place pretty much ran itself because the captain pays most attention to the HGC
Right.
because that's where the real money's getting made.
Yeah, and that's the whole job of like the case supervisors, and it's
Yeah.
not like you can walk into an auditing session
Yeah.
and they're already being examined by the examiner, so
Yeah, the poor auditors and the poor director of processing they're already doing everything they can and doing it to the best of their ability. And the more and more people go into that area just to yell at them and tell them they're not doing it good enough is like, it's not a fun place to hang out.
Right.
And HGC is not a fun place to hang out.
Right.
You're falling off screen. Ugh.
totally.
But sometimes it would be helpful to be in the HGC just to let the DFP know that someone sort of had her back, and it
Right.
wasn't just her direct to the captain.
Right.
Nice to have someone buffer a little bit. I was just between, but see, the thing is, it's like what's that?
I thought you meant you were more buff than that person. It's okay. I was like, okay.
Oh, buffer.
Yeah,
no,
I get it now.
To
Then,
be
yeah,
to
you're a
be
buffer.
a buffer.
I'm like, it's nice to have someone
buffer.
buffer than the captain.
Yeah. I was lucky as a Sea Org member to have a post where my area consisted of the entire second, third, and fourth floor of these buildings. So if I had to be a course supervisor in the Sea Org, I would lose my mind. If I was confined to a single room 12 hours a day,
Right.
I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
I was fortunate that I
totally.
had the freedom to basically go wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and as long as I was, doing something that related to my job, I was good. I never felt constricted.
Yeah.
Whereas every now and then I could even leave the building and go across the hallway to AOLA or across the street to AOLA because there was some public who were doing their auditing over there, but they're training at ASHO.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And
That's such a good point. Like, there's so much, like, as a young Scientologist, and who's like, because even when you're or who's in the Sea Org, because even when you're an out org trainee, you're basically a Sea Org member.
yeah,
It's like being stuck in the same room or building all the time is a huge deal.
Yeah.
And so in this really weird way, I have a lot of like good memories associated with the stairwells because I would like run up and down constantly, or a lot of it was going from building to building, like just walking between building and building, like
in Flag particularly.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or even when I was in middle management, walking from the HGB to the annex, the landlord office was in the annex across the street.
Right.
And even just like going up and down those stairs, it seems weird, but it like makes sense if you're a young kid who's not allowed to exercise or really kind of do anything else. It's like you get your energy out in that way.
Yeah. I remember when I was at Flag, particularly on the Key to Life course, because if you got sent to ethics, you had to go to the ethics officer at the
The
Sandcastle.
Sandcastle, yeah.
And so I would literally get sent to ethics every single day.
So you could walk there, yeah.
Yeah. I would be late for roll call at least once a day.
Your one job.
I was usually 30 seconds late.
Yeah.
But they're like 30 seconds late is late.
Yeah, totally.
And so, we get to walk all the way down to the Sandcastle, down on the
Yeah.
water, and
I
hang out
remember.
there. And I'd hang out in ethics reception, and I'd answer.
Haviva
Haviva Waters was the
Yeah.
ethics officer. I'd sit down at the reception desk, and I would answer the phone and be the receptionist. That's when I first really wanted to be a Sea Org member.
Yeah.
It was a
totally.
blast, but just because you got to walk from building to building.
Yeah.
Like, how
totally.
amazing is it? Like, those are our good times.
Yeah.
We got to go outside.
The stairwell. Yes, exactly. It's so true. Yeah. And then when there were protesters in Clearwater, then we had to go in vans. And then they put this contact paper on the window so we couldn't even see out. So it was like light.
That's wild.
Yeah. So light came in the windows of the vans, but it was just pixelated light. So it was
They literally blocked out, or almost literally blacked
Yeah.
out the van windows.
Oh,
That's how
totally.
afraid they were of you guys seeing the protesters and their signs and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you say that even that, like, even that they so much, as a child, it was still evident to you that they were so scared of you seeing either those people or what those people had to say, that even that alone acted as planted a little bit of a seed for you.
It did, yeah, a little bit, because it was like, well, what could possibly, like, what could you see? Like, even if you saw someone getting their head chopped off, like what's the worst possible thing? It was like, what, like, even like in Scientology's argument, if I did not have overts or withholds, then wouldn't I be immune to whatever
Oh, that's a
I
great point.
saw? Yeah. Or what if they applied like false data stripping or dead agenting or whatever their all of their technologies, what would make it
That's a really good point.
right? And then they always say like if you don't have like overts or if you haven't done bad things and you can't be hurt.
You're not predisposed to it, right?
Yeah, so it was kind of like, so what is the big deal about us seeing these like it was almost in the same level as like, well, it really was in the same level as like, I guess that's what I assumed, that it was like OT3 stuff. Because that's really like, maybe if the signs say,
Xenu.
yeah, and I think they did, because I saw it and I thought it was a different language. So I was like, Xenu?
I was at Flag the first time someone, and I guess you could call them a protester, but I didn't, they were being kind of undercover. We were hanging out on on a meal break outside the One Stop Shop. We were drinking our Coca-Cola and eating our Hershey's cookies and cream. That's what we had. That's what we lived on. And someone came up and handed me a flyer. And it was a Xenu flyer.
Oh.
And we just got all worked up that someone was trying to hand out, like, I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was someone trying to cause trouble. And I went into the one-stop shop where there was a SEERG member. It was actually a SEERG member who worked for OSA. And I was like, I handed this guy, the OSA guy, this thing, and I expected him to be like, what, where? No, we're going to put a stop to this. But they had been trained to do the opposite.
Oh.
Well, what do you, acted like it was no big deal.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy.
They had been trained that if you act like it's a huge deal, you must be acknowledging that there's something true about what they're saying instead of being like, oh, it's just crazy people saying crazy stuff.
Yeah,
And I remember
that's
being so
smart.
confused, like, you're not there's a troublemaker outside.
Yeah.
We got to do something
Gotta
about
defend.
it. Got to do something about it.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, what do you, let's just, go back to course, I guess. I was like, lame. But even
You were
then,
ready for a mission.
I know.
Yeah.
But even then, I had no idea what was on the OT levels.
Yeah.
Even then,
yeah.
I didn't even get the reference. I didn't get I was going to say I didn't get the joke, but it's not like the guy wasn't trying to make a joke.
Yeah.
I just didn't get the reference. I was like,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't have either. I wouldn't have known anything about it until I left Scientology.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I would often try to find out. Like, that's why Alice the librarian was my friend. And I was
Alice
always,
von Grondel?
yeah, because I would be like, so I'd be like, I was always trying to find the secrets of the universe. And I was sure that's what was on there. I mean, that's what you thought was on there too, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was some mysterious magic.
Yeah, and so then she would always show me stuff in like the Philadelphia or the PDC lectures, whatever. They're these really
The
long
Philadelphia
lectures.
Doctorate Course.
Yeah, and then I'd be like, so is this what's on OT3? And she'd be like, no, I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. But there is this one book that's really good. She'd be like, anyways, I'm not saying anything's in there, but you should read it, like a Scientology book.
Like, was it Battle in the Stars?
I don't know. She would just say it about different things.
Oh.
She would say hints that I would never get.
Oh.
I would like read them and I'd start reading them. I'd be like, okay, this is really boring. How much of this, which part is the part? Like, I can't read all of this.
Let's see. John Shamwowski says, do the public-facing auditors also do the security checks on staff?
Sometimes if there aren't staff auditors or if the staff auditors are busy.
Yes. If the public-facing auditor has someone to audit, they will never prioritize the staff member over that paying public.
Right. Yeah, never.
it's funny because on one hand, Scientology really wants its staff members to be sec checked all the time, but on the other hand, they don't really want to dedicate or allocate auditors to that purpose because it's a non-money making use of that resource.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So it just becomes this problem that there's never a solution to, which is half the staff are in trouble, they all need sec checks, and there's no one to do it.
Well, yeah, but it winds up benefiting them because usually if a staff needs a sec check, it's like, well, then you can't go on your leave to see your family because there's not enough auditors to go to give you your sec check.
Right.
Or if you want to leave the Sea Org and still speak to your family, you have to receive a leaving staff sec check, but there's no one to sec check you, so you have to stay here for another year.
Right.
So they kind of like use it in a way to where the person themselves usually winds up like paying the auditor some of their pay or doing their cleaning station or making some kind of weird trade with them to if they could please do the action that they need in order to get whatever it is they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I remember when I was on my internship, there was a guy who we may have spoken about this briefly, but in order to his wife was in an RTC adjacent organization, and she basically had to say she couldn't see him because he was in ethics trouble. He had gotten busted, and in order to spend time with her and continue living with her and be with her, he had to get through a security check. Well, he was in charge of the birthing, and I needed a new birthing because when I had come back from a mission, our birthing got taken. So I needed a new birthing, and I essentially traded with him. I was like, I'll do your auditing if you help me get a birthing. So that's how this stuff worked sometimes.
And then he never got to go see his wife, though, did he?
Yeah, right. He didn't. Yeah.
Because he didn't qualify or something.
Actually, I feel kind of bad about this. Well, I didn't keep my birthing, but I left the Sea Org in Scientology before I finished that because I wound up leaving my own session and I got taken out of the chair.
Out of the chair.
Yes. And then so yeah.
That's not your fault, though.
Yeah, and the birthing it's probably someone else's birthing now. So I didn't.
Did you get your birthing?
Well, no, because I left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, let's see. I see a question here. Do staff and Sea Orgs, I think that means like staff and Sea Org members, become resentful of public Scientologists since they are the priority of going up the bridge in Scientology?
I mean, I was more resentful of them because they had a car, a nice job, cool clothes, and money. And yeah, so I wasn't particularly like, oh, I wish I could go up the bridge like them. I was like, they get to have a life. Yeah.
I was never resentful of them.
Well, that's because you were a Sea Org member for like, you could have left at any time.
It's because I already lived in the real world before joining the Sea Org.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a house, I had a car, I had a job, I had like
Right.
a
Yeah.
fiance or whatever. And so for me, it was a choice to join the Sea Org. And no, there was never any jealousy at all. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I wasn't jealous, but if I say like, oh, well, I would be like, oh, well, I'm more on purpose than them. Then on some level, it is a little bit of like me trying to make myself feel better. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a Sea Org member. I'm part of the most dedicated group.
Yeah. You know, the truth is, even though it's always somewhat inaccurate to paint everyone with one brush, it's actually the opposite of jealousy. The Sea Org members tend to look down on the public.
Right. Yeah.
Like, they're the ones who aren't dedicated enough or ethical enough to join the Sea Org. They're sort of
Dilettantes.
They're the dilettantes.
They're not strong enough.
Yeah, they're the ones who are like, oh, take my money and fix my reactive mind. Whereas the Sea Org members are like,
Competent.
we chose not to have a reactive mind.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I know this sounds really douchey and elitist, but that's because it is. That is. I mean,
Yeah.
this
Oh,
is
yeah.
the stratification of the different levels of Scientology.
Yeah.
The staff members look at the public and go, you could be doing what we're doing,
Right.
but you choose not to.
Right, exactly. And on some level, like eventually the goal is that they would be.
Right.
The-
Eventually, yeah.
Like, how could you really be ethical or be making the decision for the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics or really be dedicated
Right.
without being a SEERG member? If you're
Right.
lucky, you took LSD at some point in your life and you can eternally use that as an excuse.
Yeah. And it's not like there's a hostile relationship between the staff and the public or the Sea Org and the staff, but it's definitely a looking down on, not a looking up to or I'm jealous of you. Because the truth is, a staff member could leave staff and be a public. A Sea Org member could leave the Sea Org and be a public. But Sea Org members do consider themselves senior to and more important than and more competent than and more ethical than staff members and public.
Right.
And I think that's also probably true for echelons within the Sea Org. I think the CLOs look down on the service orgs. Middle management looks down on the CLOs. Like, oh, if the CLOs had their ethics in, stats would be up, you know? In
right.
management, most certainly look down on middle management.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys were in lower conditions perpetually.
yeah. But probably int management was too.
And David Miscavige looks down on int management.
On everybody.
A bunch of, ironically, Miscavige probably thinks there's more SPs in int management
Yeah.
than there are in the orgs.
Yeah. Oh, seriously, I do think that he thought that very much so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So that was a question about jealousy. And let's see, guys. Well, because we're doing this directly through YouTube and not through StreamYard, I don't have the ability to star comments or even to go back and see super chats, unfortunately, guys. So apologies for that. But let's see.
And because it's vertically streamed.
And because it's vertically streamed, it's a little it's harder than usual to follow along with the chat. Let me see. Let me pull it up. Oh, here I can actually scroll back on here.
Dave called PAX a Slack pack.
Oh yeah, Slack pack. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I saw this from earlier. Who do you pay for the auditing? Do you pay Scientology directly? Yeah, that's exactly what you do. So I think that's why someone thought auditors must make a lot of money because they're delivering auditing that costs a lot of money.
I see. Well, maybe if they're a field auditor.
Oh, if they are field auditors, then yes, they do actually make a bunch of money. Do you want to explain? Lean in a little bit. You want to explain field auditing real quick?
Sure, but I'm not that good at it. I mean, so it's like a field auditor is somebody who's a public whose job they have where they make money is to audit other public, and they get paid and they have to give a cut to the org?
No, they have to pay like a 10% commission to iHelp or to middle management, basically.
I see. Okay.
And they have to charge more than the org, otherwise they're in direct competition. So they have to charge a little bit more than an org. Isn't that crazy?
Dang.
I know.
Why isn't everybody a field auditor?
I know. That's the thing. You would think if Scientologists weren't afraid of being auditors, and if it didn't take fucking years to become one, and if Scientologists really believed that all 8 billion people on planet Earth needed to get auditing, they'd be out there making that money, baby. But in Scientology, I swear to God, if in all of Scientology there's more than a dozen successful field auditors, I'd be shocked. Like even in the U.S., there's some famous ones. Chris Farmer. Chris Farmer, who's the guy from Boston? I want to say Michael Roberts, but Michael Roberts is the fundraiser guy, right? The actor?
Yeah.
Michael Richards. Who am I getting at? I can think of like what was Wendy Etterick's used to be one before she killed herself. What was his name? Like honestly, in all of the U.S., there can't be more than 5 successful field auditors.
Yeah. No, I don't hear of a lot of them. And also, it's a little bit even lower stakes because you wouldn't be being videoed or.
Oh yeah, it's easier.
Yeah, right. I mean, you would still have to get through the training, but
Right.
yeah.
Um.
How did we get on to that?
Oh, because someone was talking about how do you pay for auditing? Do you pay?
Oh,
Who do
right.
you pay? You pay the organization.
Yeah, you pay the registrar,
Yeah.
and so you see them before every auditing action you take,
Yeah.
and those are the people you hand your credit card to.
Yeah. What do you think? Have we done this one? Meaning we've been going for an hour and 15. I think we've gotten pretty far off the beaten path of what we were originally discussing, but it's still been fun.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. It's
been a
totally
blast.
interesting. Yeah.
Let's see, guys. I'm looking here at the live chat on the computer that I've got in front of me. If you got any last minute amazing questions you want us to answer, I'll take a look here. But ooh, there's Gab. There's Gab. So, I can't bring it up. Anyway, Gabrielle from Escaping the Cultiverse A says Ty Dillard was an FSM and a field auditor in Los Angeles. I never heard of Ty Dillard.
I haven't either. No. But I wasn't in like PAC.
Right.
I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. Anon says, I know someone who's an active and successful field auditor. It's rare, but they exist. It's true. And the ones that do exist pretty much have a freaking monopoly because there's,
Yeah, it's genius.
Hi,
Anon.
Farrell Cheryl says that there's a lot of independent Scientologists who audit each other. Yep.
I guess they do it for free, though, maybe, if they're auditing each other.
Yeah, I guess maybe they do. Well, how about we just end it there?
Yeah.
This has
Sounds
been fun.
good. Yeah.
And next time we'll try to figure out how to do this horizontal. The truth is, the reason I thought this was going to go horizontal is because usually I have to do advanced settings and select portrait mode. And I went into advanced settings and I didn't even see a way to select portrait or horizontal. I thought it was going to default to horizontal.
Yeah, the phone tricked us. We were trying to do it
It
horizontal.
probably did us a favor, though, because honestly, I've probably gained 50 new subscribers just since we started the live stream. And honestly, guys, that's why people stream vertically. YouTube pushes it out to a completely new audience when you stream vertically from your phone.
That's true.
This has been a blast, guys. We'll probably do we'll probably do another one of these tomorrow. It's already 6:42, so we're probably done for the evening. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thanks,
doing this
guys.
with me.
Of course.
All right, guys. I got to reach it like a big fat walrus. Good night.